right. Hopefully y'all can hear me well this time. Yay. Okay. Wonderful. All right, so I get the wonderful privilege of sharing with you guys some of the beginnings of Moses' life today. So in Exodus chapter 1, 18 through the beginning of chapter 2 is all about Moses' birth and kind of what sets him up for where he ends up being. But I really find even in this tiny little section of scripture, there's so much about God's character in there. I found myself kind of like, when I was trying to decide exactly what to dig into, there were some things I'm like, I have to kind of move that to the side because there's just not going to be enough time. But here's the big things, I guess, that I saw when reading this. Well, what he's revealing about his character to us through this little bit of Moses' story. We're going to see God using the humble and lowly, sometimes look down upon people, to kind of turn the whole society on its head and overthrow those who are in power and are, arrogant about it. Yeah. Exciting stuff. And of course, God's always fulfilling his promises, even when it doesn't look like it. Everything is moving in the direction he wants it to. Even when the person who thinks they're in charge thinks they're doing things according to their plan. And so let's dive into it. There are three big things happening in here. First off, the Israelites have been enslaved, right? The Pharaoh has decided that he's worried about what they're going to do to him if they grow in number and what they're going to do to Egypt. It's not really clear in scripture exactly what made him fear that, other than just the size of them, I guess. But he enslaves them, he's oppressing them. He's going to then go even further, because I guess that's not working, right? He orders the midwives to kill all the males at birth. He goes even a step further and calls all the people to throw the male infants into the Nile of the Hebrews. So he thinks this is his foolproof plan to get rid of those Israelites once and for all. And we're going to see how it's going to completely backfire on him, right? God turns it all around. So the first question I kind of thought in my head when reading this was, okay, he has ordered the midwives to kind of quietly kill the male babies right after they're born. He didn't announce this to all of Egypt, at least I think so. I was like, why is that? Why would he not just say, hey, all my soldiers, just go in there and wipe these people out? And I think he obviously needed those slaves to help build up Egypt. So he couldn't just do away with them all at once. I think his plan was to kind of gradually diminish them, right? And then leaving the females, they could marry into Egyptian families and kind of just assimilate into the Egyptian people and erase that Israelite culture. Still though, I'm like, it's kind of dark, but I was like, wouldn't it just be easier to just wipe them all out? I don't know. But for whatever reason, maybe the other Egyptian people were like not okay with that and didn't share his same fear. And so he didn't want to take it to that step. I don't know, but for whatever reason, he calls on the midwives to do this, and they don't listen. Thank goodness for the midwives, right? They had the fear of God in them. It states that in verse 17 and 21. They had the fear of God in them, and they knew that was wrong. They didn't outright tell the Pharaoh that they weren't doing that. They were just like, man, these Hebrew women just give birth so fast, they just pop them out. We can't even get there in time. Like, sorry, we're trying our best. And I guess he took them at their word for it. But thank goodness, because I'm sure that hundreds and hundreds of lives were saved that way, right? And I think too, throughout all of this time, God was at work fulfilling his promise to Abraham, because we find out also what happens is that because of this, the Hebrew people continue to grow even more, and the midwives were even rewarded from God by what they did and their bravery. He gave them families of their own. And I was thinking through too, like all the little things that had to take place to make these two midwives end up where they were, you know, throughout their lives. Like what was it that caused them to then become the midwives? Who taught them about God along that way? What in their upbringing made them unafraid to be able to step up and say, no, I'm not going to do that even though the Pharaoh says to. And all those little things throughout each of our lives and their lives that kind of lead them to where they need to be put in the right place and the right time by God in order to carry out his plan. You know, all those itty bitty little things we start to see even from the birth of Moses, right? It's just showing how God is like hundreds of thousands of steps ahead of the enemy, you know? And you can see it when you look back, but it's really hard to tell when you're in that moment, I think. But that's why he always prevails. He knows what he's doing. All right, so his plan horribly backfires, right? The midwives did not do what he asked them to do. So what next? Well, now he orders to all of Egypt that every Hebrew boy that is born you must throw into the Nile, but let every girl live. And I think this is probably even worse than sending in soldiers to just murder everybody. It's all out there in the open. Everyone knows Pharaoh's intentions now, right? He's calling on every Egyptian to play a role in committing this genocide. There aren't too many details, I think, in the scripture, but I mean, we can look and see what happened in the world throughout history, some of what's happening today. You know, people who are innocent end up following a really corrupt leader and doing things that they shouldn't be doing and kind of being led down that path of evil. So that must have been a very scary time, not only to be a Hebrew, an Israelite, and like terrified of what you're going to do if you have a baby boy, but also the Egyptians too. You know, what is going through their heads? Are they going to be punished if they know about a baby boy being hidden? You know, are they going to have to like tell on their neighbors? I don't know, but I'm sure that there were some severe punishments for hiding children. Thank goodness Moses' mother was able to hide him for 3 months, you know, but he gets to the point where he's like so big that you can't hide him anymore, right? And I think it's interesting too that this order is not to directly kill the child as it was with the midwives, but to throw them into the Nile. You know, it's like you're just sending them to their death, but you aren't the one doing it. I thought that was kind of interesting. And two, it's the water source, like the one water source that brings life to that whole area, and then to use that to take away life. You know, that's very dark. I feel like it really is just trying to flip the meaning of everything there. And I think too that mothers and family members would often feel forced to put their own child into the water. And I think that's exactly what Moses' mother felt like she had to do. Although she did some extra things to help ensure that, you know, my goodness, by some miracle, he would make it, you know, but I cannot, it like brings me near tears every time I think about that, having to say goodbye to your little child to send them to what you think is going to be their final moments. That must have been absolutely heartbreaking. Sorry. So the things that she did though, because you could tell she had hope, right? She lined that basket with tar. She made sure it would float, at least for some amount of time. She hid him in the reeds. She didn't just like push him down the middle of the river. It says she hid him in the reeds, and I think she put it somewhere where royalty was going to find him. She knew that. You know, I'm not sure what the layout of that area was like specifically, but I don't think that the Pharaoh's princess would like wander through this where the slaves lived to go take her bath, which is what made her find Moses. You know, so I think that she knew what she was doing. She knew what she was doing and had faith in God that Moses would make it through. Okay, and that brings Pharaoh's daughter into the story, right? his own daughter, the man who's trying to completely rid all of Egypt of the Israelites, his own daughter is what ensures the life of the Israelites and for them to eventually leave Egypt, right? So it's kind of been all these women here in this section destroying Pharaoh's plan, right? Technically, Moses' mother followed the orders. She put him in the Nile. She put him in a safe little basket, hoping that he would find safety. But she did what he ordered. And luckily, Moses' sister kept watch. She was able then to keep the family together, right? And I don't think that the Pharaoh's daughter knew that that was Moses' mother that she went and fetched to nurse the baby, because they paid her to mother her own child, which that's kind of like, yeah, like, haha, to you, Pharaoh, you didn't even know you were paying for that, right? You didn't see that one coming. So I mean, that's, God's got a sense of humor, I guess. That was pretty funny. Yeah, let me move on to the next one. So, right, Pharaoh's plan. He enslaves the people. He thinks that's going to work, but no, it's really God fulfilling his promises to Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, because the Hebrew people, they just grow even faster and they spread out more, right? They become even stronger through all of their struggles, and then they get that want to leave Egypt, which is important for them to set up their own nation, right? He tries to order the midwives to kill the babies. The families grow even more, and the midwives are rewarded. And then finally, he orders the male infants to be thrown into the Nile, and that's, you know, the big ha-ha moment. He, like Moses, the soon-to-be leader of the Israelites, is raised in the Pharaoh's own home. And God is truly amazing to be. Who would have thought that if you were living in that time, thinking you're in slavery forever, your whole family line is just going to be in slavery forever. They're murdering you, they're murdering your people. For that, in one man's lifetime, Moses' lifetime, to be completely flipped around. And the millions of you leaving Egypt, that is just incredible. And it really left me with a sense of, sorry, I need to tap my microphone, left me with a sense of assurance and trust in God, that I can trust him to carry out exactly what he says he's going to do, even if it doesn't look that way, right? And he's always far ahead of the enemy. We don't have any reason to worry. So thank you for allowing me to share all that with you guys today.
I'm going to do a little pastoral privilege moment here. Jan, can you go to the first slide, please? Our first slide. Good job. Excellent job.
Did you see the pictures from Prince of Egypt? I forgot to mention.
God using the humble and lowly to overthrow the arrogant and the strong. That is a constant theme, even into today's world. Now, you can't apply that to Trump, but you can apply it to hundreds of thousands and even millions of Israelites, of Hebrew Christians, of pastors, and the lowly, the humble, the less than. I mean, we're all working in God's world. Okay, can you go to the one of the hieroglyphs with the babies fall into the alligators? If that is not the most profound picture to bring into today's world, think about this. That's Egypt. Then you had the Holocaust in the 40s, and now you've got today's war. This nails it. And all wrapped around her theme is just phenomenal. So that's all I wanted to add.
Isn't God neat?
Yeah. the way he sets that whole thing up, you know, for Moses to be raised in the palace, you know, so now he knows the protocols and the way that the Pharaoh has to be approached, and you know, all of those things that somebody else wouldn't have known. God is just super cool. And I'll tell you what, also, it has been so much fun to watch Meghan progress and progress and progress and progress with every single one of these Torah portions. That for me is just, you know, a real pleasure to watch somebody digging deeper. So, yay.